My submission would anchor on 4 legs: traditional, scientific, legal, and religious. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is a culturally rich nation. We have 70 ethnic groups and 80 languages. We have 242 traditional areas that are recognized by the National House of Chiefs. Mr. Speaker, we throw an open challenge to proponents outside of this house, since there's no proponents in this house, of LGBTQ rights, to show us one Ghanaian traditional language or one Ghanaian traditional area that accepts and supports homosexuality. Language is an identifier of an ethnic group. And when you take all the 70 Ghanaian languages, over 70 Ghanaian languages, each one of them has words for things that are natural to the people. Things that are alien, they don't have words for them, they have descriptions for them. So when people say that the white man brought us Christianity, for example, it's incorrect, because when you take our local languages, we have names for the supreme being and names for lesser deities. In Akan, we have Odumankuma Nyankupon, who is the supreme being, who the Hebrews call Yahweh. Or in Ghana, we have Akan Anyumo. So God is not a new construct to our language. But when you take things like computer, which are new things to our language, we call it Abefo Efide Enchi. It's a description. When you take telephone, we call it Ahumatrufu or something, a description. And when you take homosexuals, we call them Kodo Besia, Kodo Ahoya Ninyama Tise Besia. It is a description, simply because it is alien to our language. And so when it comes to tradition and our culture, these are alien to our culture. Mr. Speaker, in the West, their culture seems to prohibit polygamy and support this. People think it's a cultural thing. It's actually not a cultural thing for the West. It's a financial decision. And let's put it to the Western world, that because of their tax system, that is why they frown on polygamy, not because of culture. Because when you are a single man in the West, you pay a higher tax. Once you get married to your spouse, your household tax reduces your individual tax liability. So then imagine if they allowed one man to have 4 wives. He will pay less tax to their exchequer. It is about money for the West. That is why they have criminalized polygamy. It's not about culture. And so they should not follow money and ask us to accept something that is culturally reprehensible. Mr. Speaker, let me go to the legal part. Our constitution has been dealt with, but when you read the report, those who argue against this bill say that Ghana is a signatory to international rights, the conventions and treaties. Very true. But Mr. Speaker, what they fail to do is they think that all of us don't read, but some of us do read. And Mr. Speaker, all the conventions that they have quoted in their memos to the committee, we would establish the fallacy of their positions. Mr. Speaker, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights in Article 17 says this: every individual shall have the right to education. 17.2, every individual may freely take part in the cultural life of his community. But 17.3 says, the promotion and protection of morals and traditional values recognized by the community shall be the duty of the state. This is the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So it says the promotion of morals and traditional values. So what morals are we talking about? What traditional values are we talking about? This is the convention Ghana has signed up to. And so this bill is in line with that convention. In fact, Article 18 of the same African Charter says the family shall be the natural unit and basis of society. It shall be protected by the state, which shall take care of its fiscal health and morals. The state shall have the duty to assist the family, which is the custodian of morals and traditional values recognized by the community. So if we say the family, what is the family? Is it a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, or a man and a woman with their children? We have our traditional values. Mr. Speaker, they always make reference to the UN Declaration on Human Rights. The UN Declaration on Human Rights in Article 2, I read, it says, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind. And these are the distinctions it makes: race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Mr. Speaker, I want to make it clear in this hallowed chamber that there is a clear distinction between sex and gender. Complete distinction. Sex is a biological construct. Gender is a social construct. Sex is binary, male or female. It is the source code for even computer science, 0 and 1. To be a male, you have the XY chromosome. To be a female, you have the XX chromosome. There is no other combination known to science. However, gender is a social construct. That is why in some countries, as we speak today, they have 48 gender identities. In some, they have 100. So gender is a social construct. In this country, our social construct of gender is male and female, as our constitution demands and recognizes. So, Mr. Speaker, even the UN Declaration of Human Rights does not make gender the basis for discrimination or enjoyment of rights. It says sex. And once it is sex, it is male and female. So if you change your sex as assigned at birth, cosmetically or surgically, you are flouting the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, in Article 18.3, again another international convention they quote, it says the freedom to manifest one's religion or beliefs may be subject only to such limitations as are prescribed by law and are necessary to protect, here is the cause, public safety, public order, public health, or morals or the fundamental rights and freedoms of others. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the Ghana AIDS Commission's own data, men having sex with men are a prevalent cause of the increase in HIV/AIDS in our country. So we have a duty to protect public morals and a duty to protect public health, because the consequence of an increasing HIV prevalence is on the taxpayer. Mr. Speaker, even when you go to the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control in the US, the statistics are clear that persons who are heterosexuals, the effect on their mental health, heterosexuals are 2.3% likely to contemplate suicide. Gays and lesbians are twice that, 4.6%. Bisexuals are almost 3 times that, 7.4%. As for transgenders, 30.8%. Mr. Speaker, the fact is clear. And Honorable Muntaka, in his submission, the Honorable Member for Asawasi, referred to homosexuality as madness. Mr. Speaker, in science, because until 1974, it was only 1974 that the American Psychiatric Association delisted homosexuality as a mental illness. In fact, anybody who studied any of the mental science manuals, which is the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, before 1974, homosexuality was listed as a mental illness along with necrophilia, zoophilia, and pedophilia. The decision in 1974 to delist it as a mental illness was not based on science. It was based on an opinion poll of only 6,000 people. So clearly, homosexuality is a form of madness and mental illness. And what they need is psychological care. Mr. Speaker, the Human Genome Project, and that's on science, the Human Genome Project is a $3 billion funded project by the government of the United States of America, which is the biggest investigation into the human genome. This project spanned 20 universities in the United States, the United Kingdom, Japan, and South Korea. And what they tried to do was to map out the human DNA to identify the genome. Mr. Speaker, they were able to identify the genetic marker that makes somebody like me. I only smell the food and I grow big. And there are some other people, they can eat 10 balls of kenke, they won't grow big. Like Sosu. All of this is genetic. What makes you have a bald head like Okujeto, a black one, or have an afro like Sam George? All of these are genetic markers. Mr. Speaker, the Human Genome Project was able to identify the genetic marker that makes men have feelings, emotional attractions to women. It was able to identify the genetic marker that makes women attracted to men. It could not find any genetic marker that makes men attracted to men or women attracted to women. It makes me understand why Honorable Eslawusu did not have affections for Honorable Abina or Asare, but rather found Mr. Ekufu attractive. Mr. Speaker, She sits. She even sits next to the handsome Mr. Atachia, Honorable Atachia, because it is a genetic thing. Mr. Speaker, let us serve notice. Let us serve notice, Mr. Speaker, that Honorable Ahia for his submission said in 50 years there will be migration. Well, he doesn't need to wait 50 years. It's happening today. He says they will be extinct. In fact, extinction comes when they lack people. Currently, most of the Western countries are attracting our finest brains here and offering migration programs to bring people in there because their workforce has been depleted. They have an overage population. Because, Mr. Speaker, like it is attributed to Robert Mugabe, if you put two men in a room and give them 12 months to produce as an offspring, they cannot produce an offspring. And so, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to stand here. But let me use this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to celebrate Mr. Speaker, who has been a stalwart and a bastion for this bill. But for Mr. Speaker, this bill would most likely have been killed. Mr. Speaker has stood his ground and ensured that this bill has come this far. And I want to use this opportunity with the support of my colleague members of parliament, since we all support this bill, to serve notice to the Western powers that we have taken judicial notice of what they have done to the Speaker of Uganda. After Uganda passed the bill, the sanctions on the Speaker of Uganda's parliament and on the sponsors of those bills, we will serve notice as well that if they replicate same with our Speaker and members of parliament, we will also take action against their business interest in our country, because they serve in this country and make money from here and take back home. They cannot hold us to ransom. And like has been asked on this floor, Mr. Speaker, why is it that the American Secretary of State has not sanctioned the Secretary of Defense? Because June was declared Pride Month and they had transgender parades. The US Secretary of Defense blocked and stopped a transgender parade on a US Air Force base because he said the US Pentagon, which is their defense headquarters, would not support such activity. Governor DeSantis has passed legislation against open transgender parades in Florida. Why have they not taken on their own citizens? In fact, in 2022 alone, there were 433 actions in State House of Legislatures across the United States, banning and clamping down on homosexuality. The Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS, just last week, passed a landmark judgment enforcing the rights of American citizens to refuse to offer services to people on the basis of their faith and because they were LGBTQ. Mr. Speaker, it shows you that even America has realized the error of their judgment and are walking back their steps. Italy in June designated June also as Family Protection Month to counter the Pride Month. Maybe that's something Ghana should begin to consider, that we make June a Family Values Month to celebrate the Ghanaian family value. But Mr. Speaker, in wrapping up, Mr. Speaker, I just want to state that the dangers of homosexuality are grave. Persons who are homosexuals or transgenders, per statistics from the CDC, have at least 6 times higher rates of obesity, substance abuse, and suicidal thoughts than heterosexual people. This has a consequence for our health bill as a country and public health, and we cannot turn a blind eye to this. I want to
work on reaction.
Sure, you're making money doing what you do, but when it comes to becoming pretty much stacked against you, if you work,
look, they want your time as cheaply as they possibly can get.
Membia beda yunia and more asset. ɛwɔ sɛnea wɔsi agyina defending Ghana constitution. Membia wɔ ne constitution no na guide man ɛma maa no hu sɛnea ne wɔsi tie. Nyankopɔn constitution ɛyɛ ne 10 commandment. Ghana constitution no ɛma limit ɛma citizen na ɔwɔ kurom hɔ no ehun the rule and regulation as of us live in the nation, the country. Ghana nation no constitution is a Lgbtq. Yene no any chaka. As all respect. Western world beats America, Canada, Europe, and other nation no are accepting. We can accept because your constitution no ema okwan. Years ago, America na constitution no implement is oba ebutu. Yes, a year juma ama 1940. 1950 no be ano na buy any kwan say vote to America. This is a constitution. The man of moving no right no more right. Oba ko krobiti say China a communism. The people living that name say no constitution is communism. And they are accepted. Mentia say neno big person oba mi kurum. No be catch them say me person me yin ukrum no. So one me be di dwadia and ye me person me. Mrs. Subi ne Mrs. Value of Ghana no. Se Ghana ka say the nation no accepted Barney Bearman. Men and women and a Ghana constitution no declare almost say as a family. Bia no awo out na one can family no can be. Western world bit stay where they are. Their constitution, their belief, their acceptance near Omopibiano. But in Ghana, the constitution no actually say, yeah, my baba is citizen in UK, my be a citizen in Europe. A same will be, and I have the book Boha Nankam the Veterinary time and I may swear a woman citizen we know. And you know, citizen nature say swear. So obey the man constitution and the regulation. What I swear about being man in the bar as I respect the man constitution. Inti unti me country Britain for and as Europe for say Sibiu me about make Ghana constitution no ever be imposed that be any juma. Sane some sort na mudim. Some judge onko so no wonko. Na nipa bebree no 1000 ewurade kura wo soro no e defend. Yenhwe ne Yankopɔn ka anyway. Oka Leviticus wa. O kire say nipa woni bema woni bema beda pa woni ba beda eye chiwade ye how see so we so emane kwosoro na se ukonye bi o Ghana na say me Ghana na aspe eye constitution bia so ottoman constitution bia no ne woni se okokodem ntino omo accept so me sade no omo ne constitution ni me so oba say uyi bibi atia nyame asema metima defend me Nyankopɔn. So catch and say me to we no me ye adwuma me catch and say me because me believe in say Nyankopɔn the nancy and the boss no asase there to so o me. Enti ese me hum na me reserve sada na me Nyankopɔn because ono ne constitution on the boy we ase and the constitution at all say me obey that God constitution. Wa open way obey wumpa ye onu Nyankopɔn temasam. Ba me de ne waka akyere na me di agoro. Nyanom yen hwɛ sɛ ne wi ase pɛ sɛ ɔyɛ. Dan ye kan wɔ sɛ me ne bɛkɔ wi ya aman bɛ sɔrɔ aman so. Ka bi de na aman bi firi ne kuro bɛka akyerɛ sɛ fa me ye no me kuro mu no. Ɛdinta ɔmo ntena sɛ ɛmmɔ tuo awudie ne wɛ ɛkɔ so no ɔmo mfa nyɛ adwuma. So ɔmo ɔwɔ bibia so obi timi twintu ko wura school mu ekunipa mpem ya America for no kwese omo tena ase no me assessment yourself the UN no so omo tena ase United Nation you must sit now I an assessment and you say me kuru mu kura no die na ese me ye beti maboa enu no onza ka video no subscribe no wa share ɛnom na ɔka wɔn nhyira wɔ Yesu din mu nti amen.